I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is FTB Genesis. Boy, oh boy, today do I have a video for you. Today we're going to be jumping back in to more FTB Genesis, and today we're going to be upgrading our power system. Hopefully, we can generate a ton of power utilizing oil that we're going to have to mine up. Now, mining up oil, you say? Yes, there's actually a way that we can mine oil from the area around us, and we can mine it indefinitely so long as we have power. So how are we going to do this? Well, let's look at oil and how we can obtain it. So crude oil can be obtained in a couple of different ways, one being a B, one being through these inert crystals, which is not a very nice way of doing it. And then you could also farm it manually around the world, or there is a fluid laser and an ore drill. All of these things we should have access to, I believe. So we can make the machine blocks, we can make all of these little components here. It is a lot of crafting, but we should be able to make all of these things that will ultimately lead us to the laser tractor beam, which allows us to make a fluid laser base. Now, we also need laser drills, and these will require a dissolution chamber and some latex, which is going to lead me into our first fluid auto crafting utilizing applied energistics. So how am I going to handle latex fluid auto crafting? Well, I'm going to use a storage bus on this tank right here, and this tank is filling up with latex. I ended up swapping these tanks out from the cast that we had because this will hold more. But what we want to do is place a storage bus, and that's where I'm going to just hit this button to partition the storage to be latex. And that's all we have to do. Now we should have fluids inside of our applied energistics system. I think that's pretty cool, right? So all we have to do now is essentially set up crafting recipes into the dissolution chamber that will automatically feed the fluids and items. And then we just need to send the items back into our system. And I think this can all be done in one fell swoop. So now to get this set up on our dissolution chamber, we should be able to say input. We're going to go ahead and pull from here. So that should accept here. We don't have to lock any inputs. And then on the fluid input, it should also be set to pull. And then the output should be set to push, all from the top. And I think this will work. So we're going to have to give this a shot. There's going to be a lot of things that I definitely want to get auto-crafted from this. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, this is going to be industrial foregoing that we're going to be getting into. And the thing that we're going to need to set up auto-crafts for is going to be the simple machine frame. And so this is going to require a little bit of latex, a gold gear, which we're going to actually have to set up a metal press for. That's going to be our first multi-block there. So we're going to get our metal press set up to make these gears. Diamond gears are not made in a metal press, so this is going to be something that we're going to have to do here. Thankfully, we have all the stuff for that. Well, let's go ahead and just set this to autocraft. We can't test it just yet, but whenever we put this in, you'll see that it already has the assigned fluid amount. And so I can build that recipe, and let's go ahead and put this over here. So that'll go into this. And let's see, there should be some other things that I think we can craft. For example, we should be able to craft like these upgrades right here. So let's go ahead and try to craft like a speed upgrade. And so this already has the recipes for all of these items. So let's go ahead and put that in, and let's see if we can't craft this. And this will be a good test to see if this setup is going to work and if we're going to need any other sort of piping solution. So we'll craft up one speed upgrade, and then I'll run over here and see it all went in, including the fluid. It's doing the craft. And then will this go back into the system? And it does. So perfect. So now we have the dissolution chamber pretty much automated. So now we need to dive into a metal press. Now, thankfully, we have already done steel production, so this shouldn't be too bad. And there is a little quest here showing the basically the ingredients that we're going to need. So steel scaffolding, heavy engineering block. We already have conveyor belts and played with those. And then we're going to need the metal press mold. And we're going to get a gear mold, which is going to be pretty nice. We don't actually have to craft this. So let's get all these things together. Let's build this multi-block. So we finally met our match here, because in the process of making the steel scaffolding, we now encounter also another machine. To make steel rods, we need to make ourselves a lathe. And this is going to be an interesting machine. It requires a complex circuit, which is something that we haven't made yet. But normally these magnets would be kind of scary, but we can actually craft dead magnets quite easily, and we just need to put them into a charger. This process from IC2 normally takes a long time and requires a very specific setup, but with this, we can just simply charge it, and look at that, we get a magnet. So this isn't too bad at all, actually. And the pulsating quartz, this is also something we should probably get a recipe set up for in our alloyer. That way we can just go ahead and get it crafted over here. So after a little bit of auto crafting, and I now have that complex circuit completely automated, we now have ourselves a lathe, but I'm not quite sure. This does need 240 volts, so I won't be able to directly connect it up to this system. Instead, I'm going to have to use the upgrader that is essentially going to take two of these generators, two of these combustion generators, and it's going to combine its total power into this. So we can still use these, but I'm going to have to create a separate line over here that upgrades that power. And it looks like from this lathe, we do get ourselves a auto ejector, an auto injector, and we also get thermal electro generator here. So that's all interesting. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, we use this transformer here to essentially upgrade our power to the power that this supports. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this down, and the red side is connected. So this should be carrying both the voltages there, and this should upgrade it to the 240 volts that is needed for this machine. And this cable is insulated, and or it is rated up to that amount. So if I place this down, it should be able to work. And automation wise, we should have the upgrades to be able to do that. We just got them via the quest. And because of these upgrades, we should be able to set the auto injector, hopefully to the bottom. So if we right click this puts it in smart mode. If we sneak right click, I mean, I'm assuming this is going to auto eject from the down, from the bottom. And then this will also need to go in the down. If you had it in smart mode, maybe it would be smart enough to know what it's doing there. So maybe it would automatically detect in some way. But if I put both of these in here, we should be able to automate this. So let's go ahead and do steel. And then let's go ahead and create a rod pattern using this. Let's go ahead and ignore the nuggets. I typically like to do that, so we don't have to worry about byproducts. And let's go ahead and put that in there. And let's see, can we auto craft rods this way? Let's do 10 for now. And let's check on this and see. So it's not doing anything. So let's pull these upgrade cards out, and we're going to reset them and do that. And let's try putting them in smart mode by right clicking them. So this is supposed to be its smart mode. Okay, so maybe we need an inventory of some kind in order to do this. So I ended up figuring it out. I went ahead and put a bus here. Now we're going to see if this is actually going to work. But I have my injector card set to the up. And this is what I'm worried about. Now, it looks like I'm going to have it go into a barrel, because it's going to send into an inventory. And then I need to have that inventory set up in order to pull from. So I am going to need a barrel for this. So let's go ahead and grab a barrel. And it's kind of interesting. It doesn't send directly to the applied energistics cards or the import buses and stuff like that. So a little bit more challenging to handle. But as you see, it does auto place the items into inventories as if it was a hopper. So with that, I can then just hook this in and we're ready to go. Smooth sailing. What a lathe. So almost have everything ready to go. We already have our engineer's workbench. So let's go ahead and make the sheet press. So perfect. We have the sheet press. We now have also the metal press mold, and we get ourselves some more sheet plates. And so the main thing I want to do is automate these. But apparently I don't know if there's a few things that specifically have to be done this way. But most things can be done by the hammer with the metal press. But this mold is the thing I really want, which is the gears. Now to build this thing out, we're going to place two scaffolding right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a redstone engineering block down here. The piston can go right here, and then we're going to place the heavy block on top. And then the belt actually kind of matter. This chooses what direction you want it to be going. And I actually want it going this direction. So I'm going to place the belt here. I'm going to place a belt right here. Now, to be able to activate this, you might have to rotate the piston a few times. until it lands in the appropriate spot. So we might have to break this and replace it to face it downwards. So let's see. Can I get it to place downwards? There we go. And then I should be able to right click. And now we have a metal press. So it is a multi-block. And automation of this thing should be pretty simple. We give it power from the top and we can control it with redstone right here on this little red dot. And then we should be able to input to the side with something like a hopper, or we might be able to just automatically insert. And then over here, we can automatically collect and send it from this side where the belt's at. So I'm thinking to automate this, we should be able to have the pattern provider send directly into the metal press. And then on the back here, make sure we have our import bus up here on this. And that should be able to pull the items in. And that should make the automation pretty straightforward. Now, we do need to get our press on here. To do that, we just right click it right there. And let's see if we can get some gears made up. So for the gear pattern, it's just simply 4 right here. And let's go ahead and get this requested. So we put this in here, and then I will say I want a gear. It's going to send the items. Made it. And, well, I picked it up. So maybe turn my magnet off. Try again. And let's see. It does not automatically go in. It doesn't appear anyways. Actually, the item went somewhere, but I don't know where it went. It did just, oh, it went down here. Okay, so it looks like for the import, we might need a inventory over here. So my trusty barrel should work, and we should be able to get this now tapped in. All right, and now we'll request one, making sure my magnet is off, goes into the barrel, and ends up in the system. Perfect. Ah, that's exactly what we want. And now it's automated and we can use this for multiple things. Now we might in the future end up needing more presses to be able to do different tasks, but this one works quite well. So with all of that, I think we now have the ability to technically make this. And it looks like it did say we were missing latex. We should not be missing latex. Oh, you know what? We are missing latex because this has consumed all of the latex. You know what? I think I have enough plastic for right now. Later on, we're going to need a separate tank specifically for filling with latex. So we now have almost everything ready to go. I just got my fluid laser base, so that is done. Now we just need the lasers themselves, and I have already set up a recipe for it, and we should now have everything ready to go. I should just simply craft it, and I get to watch all of my automation tasks do their thing, and I get to sit back and relax while it all happens. Now, just like that, I have the laser drills that I'm going to need for this process. So now that we have this, how are we going to actually use this oil that we can potentially mine? Well, that's where Pneumaticraft comes into play. Now, my ultimate goal here is to centralize our power. I'm actually kind of wanting to put the power in this sort of glass area here, which would be kind of cool if we could do that, which would mean feeding our combustion generators with more power. And to be able to generate more power, we're going to need lubricant. Well, LPG, it's not really lubricant, it's LPG. And this is all explained underneath this section. It talks about going from kerosene to gasoline to the LPG. But the funny thing is you actually go to LPG like all in the same process. So in reality, you just need the laser drill, and then we need to get our refinery set up from Pneumaticraft to start producing this fuel. Now with a little bit of power, we should be able to get our laser set up. So I'm going to place the base right here, and then I'm going to place my drills, believe it or not, connected right to it, like so. So yeah, you can connect this directly up to these things. And you could even place them to the side. It really doesn't matter so long as it's within this range, so long as the fluid laser base is within the range of the laser drill, and it'll definitely work. So let's get all of that placed in. These should all have power. And then let's go ahead and put our laser lens in here. And this should, if everything works correctly, start farming up oil. So it needs to be between 20 and 60, and it is there. And is it going to generate? It hasn't generated any yet. We can get it down to Y level 20. And I don't know if it's a chance to produce oil or not, but definitely worth checking here, I guess. And perfect. It is actually working. Look at that. We now have a little bit of crude oil that is building up and is making its way up to the top. So essentially what I want to do is I want this crude oil to be sent into some sort of tank. And one of the best tanks that we could use is probably an ender tank. So let's go ahead and place down our ender tanks, and I'm going to actually color these first and make sure they're on the black color because it's associated with oil. Let's go ahead and get that put together. And nice. So we have these ender tanks, and really the ender tanks are there potentially so I could move oil around. Maybe I want a small setup later on and I could just create a tank connected here. But what I need to do is go ahead and set the output to push up into this tank. And so now we have oil going in here, which also means we have oil in this tank, and we can now wirelessly move fluids about. There's many other ways to do this, but like I said, I want to be able to potentially use these later on, and I should be able to easily do that. Now, this is where things get a little bit more complicated, because this is where we get into a refinery. So for a refinery, you're going to need a refinery controller, and then you're going to need 4 refinery outputs, technically, to be able to get all of the fluids out of the oil and separate everything. You're also going to need a vortex tube, and this is going to allow you to build up temperature so that way your refinery can start working. And we're going to regulate how much we're actually sending to this vortex tube with a regulator tube module. This should allow us to, by default, limit this down to 4.5 bar total given to this thing. And so hopefully that will be enough to be able to keep it at the temperature that this actually needs to reach. Now there's some other mechanics that we'll get into here in a moment, but basically that's it. So let's go ahead and get our vortex tube set up properly. So right here is the vortex tube. Now down on the bottom, I want to have it connected here. So I didn't know how far I was going to need this, but I want it connected down here. So let's go ahead and run the cable. I don't have this hooked in just yet because there's still some other things that I need to do before we fully get this ready to go. And we want to make sure everything is going to work for us. So let's go ahead and close this in. Nice. So now we have basically pressure, but we want to regulate that pressure. So this is where the regulator tube module is going to come into play. So within this network, let's go ahead and go down here real quick. I need to essentially say, hey, regulate the amount of pressure that's going into these tubes. And I'm hoping this is going to be enough to keep it at temperature. If not, we may have to remove this later on. So I should be able to get this to face downward, like so. So that is going to face downward. And then I should be able to connect in and also connect in from the top there. Okay, so lots of work ahead. I still don't have this hooked in, but let's go ahead and see if we can't get the pressure going. And that's going to start sending pressure to this, and the temperature is going to start building up. But like I said, this should not go over the 4.9 bar of pressure. All right, so let's hook up our refinery controller to this now. And so that is as simple as placing it down. Now, it does need a certain amount of temperature, but we haven't put any fluids in here yet, so I don't think it knows just yet how much. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 3. If I can get up here, 3 and 4. So essentially this is 4 tall in total, and it's going to separate all of our fluids that we send to it from our ender tank. Yeah, pretty cool. So let's actually get the fluid going into it from the ender tank. Now, believe it or not, we should be able to simply use this pipe and place this directly on top. And whenever we flip this over, it's going to drain into this pipe and end up in here. So this is probably this is such a cheap way in order to fill this up. Now you see right here, this little line, this is how much temperature we actually need this to stay at in order for this to process our oil successfully. And you see right here, we're actually generating now LPG, but we're also generating all of these other materials, and we're going to have to do something with those materials eventually. But for now, everything's working fine, but we do have some warnings. What we can do to help improve is we can actually cover up every face of this machine with some sort of solid block like iron blocks. Is it 100% necessary? It would be if you were using a smaller heat source, but with our current heat source, we're doing just fine. And I don't think there's a major reason in order to do that. I don't think it's going to improve our speeds or anything. because we're already maintaining our temperature. It's just technically a little bit less wasteful. Now, something may be a little bit off, right? It's how are we getting enough coal to power our pneumatic craft system? And well, I technically haven't really set it up yet, but I wanted to save it for you guys. So essentially what I'm going to do is all of that coal that we produced last episode and that we're continuing to produce, we're going to get into how to craft from an exporter. So to do this, we essentially need to create up a recipe for the coal. So we should have coal essence laying about, quite a bit of it actually. And I'm going to make a pattern for that. And that's going to go into a crafter. Really doesn't matter as of right now. Later on, this will be so fast we won't have to worry about it. But the pattern is now in there. But what we're going to need is a crafting upgrade. So a crafting card. I don't think we were ever given one through the quest. So let's go ahead and make this. Looks like we need some gold, so we should be able to craft that. Oh, that is so nice having access to that. So perfect. So we'll also craft this. And we're crafting all of this with auto crafting for the auto crafting card. That's a lot of crafting. So now that we have this, we can essentially say, hey, export. And if there is not any in storage, then go ahead and craft it to put it in here. So we can simply say, put coal in here, and it's going to make sure to fill this with coal. And if the inventory is full, it will stop, of course, crafting, but it'll only craft once it is completely full. So it should be able to send in here. And of course, sending some speed upgrades is going to help with the issue that we're having right now. So, or acceleration cards, not speed upgrades. And that'll make sure that it can keep up with it fast enough. So we'll put just one in here is probably enough. And there it goes. So as you see, it's starting to fill this up. And we're looking pretty good. So now we have pressure running through the system, and we now have oil that's produced, and we now have all of these different components. And LPG is going to be super important. And this whole refinery thing, we may have to scale it up at some point. But for right now, should work. Now it seems like from the little bit of oil power that we have, it's able to keep up with having the tier 2 speed upgrade and the tier 2 efficiency upgrade. But whenever I put the additional processing one in there, no, it is not having that. But we can put the processing in here. And I think we can even put some speed upgrades inside the middle as well, which will also help produce more. And well, it seems like these two little generators are chugging along, able to keep up, allowing us to send more oil here and continue to produce more LPG. Now, there is something that I want to do now that I have the LPG being produced and I have these upgrades in. I want to basically kind of start to switch over to the LPG. So I want to use LPG inside these chambers here, and I need to get it from one location to another. I'm thinking about using wireless to do this. So we do have cyclic in here, which has access to nodes, which are essentially ways of sending things wirelessly, including power. But we do need to get into a little bit of other stuff like melting chamber, and we also need to get a solidification chamber. I'm going to link these two together and send fluid from here over to here, because some of the recipes are going to require this. So, as I'm familiar with, we'll go ahead and extract fluids, and then on this side, we'll just send the fluids. So now we have fluids ready to go, and we should be able to craft the components that are used for all of the nodes. This is one of my favorite parts of cyclic, by the way, is these nodes. But we do need crystallized amber in order to do this, which requires, looks like fire charge. We also have magma blocks. Magma blocks are what's going to make the magma in general. So yeah, we should be able to make all of this. And I definitely have blaze. I have blaze powder. So nice. I have the crystallized amber I need, and I want to use this to effectively send fluid wirelessly. Now I want to use laser IO to initially though send our fluids from this spot right here, and I want to send them to these laser nodes. And to be able to do this, we're going to have to link our laser system sort of together. And as these only reach up to 8 blocks, we're going to need some extenders in order to get that moving. So on the back, we can go ahead and hook these in, and these are actually going to be extracting back here on separate channels. Each one of them is going to have a separate channel associated to them. This is going to be pulling out right here on the white channel. This one is going to be pulling out on the orange channel. and so on and so forth as we go down the line. That way they all, even though they're all connected, they're all technically going to be sending to different locations, and we'll choose the send location here in a moment. So all of this is set up, making sure that these are all on separate channels. Now with our pneumatic wrench, I want to make sure that these are all one giant connected tank, and this should hold quite a bit of fluid for now. I plan on utilizing some of this other fluid for some other things, and if so, we might have to start voiding some if we're not going to use it, but we should turn it all into power technically. So here we go. So now we have the chambers ready to go, and then this is going to be on the insert card. So let me go ahead and sort this as follows. I think we can put LPG here. It's not a big deal. So we'll just say insert LPG, which is the white channel, and then we'll continue along. Now these aren't doing anything right now because they're not hooked together. We want to make sure they're all on the insert channel here for them. Perfect. Now for the fun part, that is linking them together. So I'm just going to simply right click, shift, then right click until we get them all linked together, shift, and then right click here. Now that's linked together, and then we just continue this, and we can connect it to these laser connectors, which will allow it to send this over a longer distance, because these wouldn't be able to link, or if you want to use it for decorative purposes. But there we go. So now these are all connected together, and we're going to see all of the different types of fluids now building up in their designated spots. Now this is where the fun happens. We are going to need a GPS. And GPSs are basically how we're going to be able to send things back and forth. We do need some charcoal for this. So this is how the wireless works. So I'm going to take a fluid node and I'm going to put it above my LPG. Now we should be receiving LPG down here. And I don't know if this whole thing acts as one solid tank. This could pose a little bit of a problem. If it doesn't work that way, we might have to put a node down here. But I do want to try this. Let's see. Can we go ahead and on the down, let's go ahead and send on a separate channel. We'll do a separate channel and we'll extract. And then I want that extraction to go on the up, and I want to send on that separate channel up. Okay, it looks like it's sending. I think it will be taking this fluid potentially, but I don't know if it pulls the fluid. That's a thing I'm gonna have to figure out. But it does seem like it is pulling some sort of fluid here. But what I need is I need to then take that and send it into this. So let me get some speed upgrades and see if this will go faster. So yeah, unfortunately, it turns out that this is going to be a little bit of a problem. So instead of doing that, because it does have to pull from the bottom with how this tank actually works, we're probably going to be better off using a dispenser upgrade. So I'm going to face the west, and I should be able to tell it what face to eject from by shift right clicking. So we're going to do the west here. And then I should be able to place the fluid transfer node down here. And by simply placing this upgrade in here, that should start to fill this transfer node up. Perfect. So now the fluid from here is going into this, and this is where the GPSs really shine. So we should be able to shift right click on here, and that is going to allow this to work. We may have to click it on the actual back, and I have silk touch on, so we may have to specify the side. I don't really know if it actually holds that data, but let's go ahead and now, gotta make sure to click this. I'm going back and forth. There we go. Let's make sure to use a different hand, and when we put this in here, that LPG should get sent to this. Well, I say should, but apparently that is exactly not the case. It may be because we actually need some sort of inventory to actually pipe this to. So I guess instead what we can do is just use this, another tank, and we'll use a dispenser upgrade on it. Let's go ahead and break this so we can tell the dispenser upgrade what side to work from. And then we should be able to place this down, keeping it still relatively clean with how I want this all to work. And then we'll put this in here. Right, and then we need to re-evaluate where this is placing. So this should now fill the tank up once we put this in here. Oh boy, there it goes. Okay, so now it should fill up, and now this is generating, but this is actually generating quite a bit of power, and we don't really have anywhere for it to go just yet. So that's where I think using the node here might be a good idea, to go ahead and get a node at least put up, and we'll get the GPS cards set up over here, and we should be able to wirelessly power like tons of things this way. So I'm going to select all of these, and unfortunately the management of all this is kind of hard to do, but we can place them all in, and now this should be powering all of this. The thing is though, this generates a lot of power, like a lot of power. And I don't know if we're going to be able to maintain its burn rate with just one setup alone. And so that is where potentially utilizing the gasoline later on is going to be where we actually see our gains. You know what? I actually think we're producing just enough for this one generator here. This is actually increasing and not decreasing. So now we're effectively at over passive generation. So yeah, we're generating more of the LPG than we're currently using, and that's even with these at max upgrades, and the oil is actually filling up in here as well, which means this is actually running efficiently at max. I'm actually kind of surprised. And now we've effectively scaled up our power to what is going to hopefully bring us through the end of the pack, potentially. We should be able to use this power and extend it and also expand on it in the same ways that we have it set up right now to potentially power just about anything we want. Especially with that wireless ability, we can actually hook that into all kinds of IC2 stuff and things like that. And boy, oh boy, am I excited for that. Now guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a huge thumbs up. Guys, I appreciate you so very much for watching, and I do want to say thanks to my amazing supporters of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to 70 Randy. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, over on the Discord, becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. Oh man, it has been a blast thus far. I'm having an absolute journey through this pack. It is amazing, and I hope you guys are enjoying the ride. Thank you guys so much for your amazing support. I will see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.